The twin suns of Krivos scorched the rocky plains, casting long shadows over the arena where the people of the planet gathered. The air was thick with dust, sweat, and tension. Thousands of spectators lined the raised platforms, their faces etched with excitement and fear. They had heard the rumors about the human who had dared to come here, into the domain of Warlord Karzak, the most feared leader in the system. Elias Vorn stood at the edge of the arena, his boots stirring the sand as he looked across the crowd. He was not armored like the others who had come to fight for glory or survival. His simple outfit, a reinforced tunic, sturdy pants, and a utility belt was all he carried. In his eyes burned a quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing one's own strength and determination. The warlord's voice thundered through the arena, amplified by strange alien devices. "Step forward, human!" Karzak's words echoed like a challenge. "Show us the strength of your kind, or be crushed like the others." Elias didn't flinch. He took a slow, steady step forward, feeling the gaze of every eye upon him. There was a mix of disbelief and amusement in the air. Humans were considered fragile, weak, and unfit to face the might of Krivos's warriors. Most of the crowd expected him to run or beg for mercy. But Elias knew better. He had faced dangers far greater than this in his own world, and he had survived. From the opposite side of the arena, Karzak emerged, towering over everyone else. His armor was dark and jagged, forged from rare metals that gleamed under the suns. In his massive hands, he held the legendary blade that had earned him his fearsome reputation. It was no ordinary sword. It was said to be unbreakable, capable of cutting through almost anything. The blade had belonged to the greatest warriors of Krivos for centuries, and none had ever survived when it was raised against them. The crowd gasped as the warlord stepped into the center of the arena, raising his sword high. "Prepare yourself, human," he roared, his voice carrying over the plains. "Your strength means nothing here." Elias tightened his fists, feeling the roughness of his palms. He didn't need a weapon. Humans had a way of surviving where others failed, a combination of intelligence, instinct, and sheer will. He had learned to fight with more than just tools. He fought with courage, with strategy, and with the refusal to give in to fear. As the two figures faced each other, the air seemed to grow heavier. The sun reflected off Karzak's armor, creating a dazzling display that made him look almost invincible. The crowd whispered among themselves, some cheering, some murmuring about how foolish a human could be to stand against such power. A horn sounded, low and resonant, signaling the beginning of the duel. Karzak lunged forward immediately, his sword slicing through the air with deadly speed. Elias dodged, moving with precision, his eyes never leaving the warlord's movements. Every strike from Karzak tested his reflexes, but Elias was fast, quicker than anyone expected. His body moved like water flowing around the attacks, absorbing the pressure without panicking. The spectators watched in awe. Humans were unpredictable, they realized. While alien warriors relied on strength and brute force, Elias relied on anticipation, reading Karzak's body language and responding with exact timing. He knew that one mistake could be fatal, yet he moved with calm confidence. Karzak swung again, harder this time, expecting to crush the human with sheer power. Elias sidestepped and grabbed the sword with both hands, something no one had dared to try. The crowd gasped as the impossible happened. The human held the blade unshaken. He felt the immense force of the warlord's swing, but he didn't falter. His arms trembled slightly, but his grip never loosened. "You dare touch my sword?" Karzak bellowed, his voice full of rage. He pushed harder, trying to force Elias to release it. But the human's stance was steady, rooted like a tree. Elias took a deep breath, centering himself. He had no illusions about the danger. Karzak could end his life in a single strike if he failed. But fear was not in Elias's heart. He had faced death before, and each time he had risen stronger. He could feel the energy of the crowd shifting. The whispers of doubt, the murmurs of disbelief were now turning into something else. Curiosity, amazement, even hope. The warlord's strikes grew faster, more furious. Sparks flew as the sword scraped against the hidden reinforcements in Elias's gloves. Each swing was a test of endurance, a challenge to the human spirit. But Elias did not retreat. He moved with intelligence, using angles, momentum, and precise timing. Every move he made was calculated, not wasted. As Karzak lunged for a final strike, Elias saw an opening. The warlord had overextended, confident that no human could counter him. With a sudden surge of strength, Elias twisted the sword and brought all his power into a single motion. The metal groaned under the pressure. The crowd gasped, holding their breath. And then snap! The legendary sword broke, splitting into two jagged pieces. A collective scream erupted from the spectators. Karzak staggered back, disbelief painted across his face. He had never been challenged like this before. No one had ever broken his sword, let alone a human. Elias stood firm, breathing steadily, his eyes fixed on the stunned warlord. He could see the anger, the humiliation, and the fear in Karzak's gaze. The arena, once filled with doubt about humanity's abilities, now buzzed with a new energy. Humans were not weak. They were clever, resilient, and capable of the impossible. Some of the alien spectators began whispering to each other, their voices tinged with awe. "Did you see that?" one said. "A human broke the warlord's sword." Others nodded, their eyes wide with newfound respect. "Perhaps the humans are stronger than we thought," another murmured. "Perhaps we have underestimated them for too long." Karzak, though humiliated, was far from defeated. His pride demanded that he act, that he show the crowd he was still powerful. But for the first time he hesitated. He looked at the human before him, a being so small compared to his massive frame, yet fearless, precise, and unyielding. Karzak's mind raced. How could a human possess such strength and courage? How could someone so seemingly ordinary defy everything he represented? Elias lowered his arms, releasing the broken sword pieces. His stance was relaxed but ready. He knew the warlord could strike at any moment, but he also knew that the momentum of this moment was on his side. Humanity had shown that it could rise above fear, above expectation, above what others thought possible. The crowd erupted into cheers, some shouting in amazement, others standing in stunned silence. For the first time, the humans in the stands did not feel small or weak. They felt proud, inspired by one man who dared to stand alone and challenge a legend. Even the elite warriors surrounding the arena began to shift their attention. They had always believed themselves superior, untouchable, and invincible, but now a human had defied all that, proving that skill, courage, and determination could rival even the most formidable power. Karzak's face darkened with rage, but there was also something else, a reluctant respect, begrudgingly forming in the depths of his mind. Elias had done what no one else could. He had shattered a symbol of invincibility, and in doing so, changed the perception of humanity forever. As the twin suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the arena, Elias stood tall. He was not just a fighter. He was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when fear was cast aside and courage took its place. And though this was only the beginning, one thing was clear. The era of underestimating humans was over. The warlord's challenge had begun, and Elias had already won the first, most important battle, not with brute force, but with spirit, wit, and unshakable resolve. The arena was silent, yet heavy with tension. Dust hung in the air like a thin veil over the standing crowd, and the twin suns of Krivos had begun to dip lower, painting the rocky plains with orange and gold. Every eye was fixed on the center of the arena, where Elias Vorn and Warlord Karzak faced each other. Karzak's face was a storm of fury and disbelief. His legendary sword had broken, shattered by a human's bare hands, a feat no one in Krivos' history had ever managed. He took a staggering step back, the jagged pieces of his weapon clattering across the sand. The crowd murmured, unable to believe what had just occurred. Yet Karzak's anger was far from spent. "You human." Karzak's voice roared like thunder, shaking the arena. "You dare destroy my blade and live?" Elias did not flinch. His breathing was steady, his stance calm. He could feel the intensity of the warlord's gaze upon him, the pressure of centuries of alien pride and arrogance focused like a spear. Yet in that moment, Elias knew exactly what he had to do. He would not run. He would not beg. He would not falter. Karzak advanced again, his fists clenched. Without his sword, he relied on sheer physical strength and his massive size to dominate the human. Every step he took made the ground tremble, and the crowd instinctively stepped back, unsure if Elias would survive this next attack. But Elias was ready. When Karzak swung a heavy punch, Elias dodged to the side with precise timing. His movements were fluid, almost effortless, as if he had already anticipated every strike. The warlord's fist smashed into the ground, throwing sand into the air. The force of it made the rocks tremble, yet Elias stood perfectly balanced, his feet planted firmly on the ground. "You are strong. But strength alone will not save you," Karzak shouted, his eyes burning with rage. Elias tilted his head slightly, watching the warlord's patterns. He had studied combat for years, learning that fighting was more than just strength. It was timing, anticipation, and understanding the opponent's mind. Karzak's attacks, though powerful, followed a rhythm, and Elias could read it. As Karzak swung again, Elias sidestepped and grabbed his opponent's forearm. The warlord roared in surprise, swinging with his other arm. But Elias twisted sharply. The force of the warlord's own momentum made him stumble backward. Sand and dust erupted around them as the crowd erupted into whispers and gasps. "Impossible," one of Karzak's lieutenants whispered to another. "No human should survive this long, let alone push him back." The warlord stumbled to regain balance, his massive body tense and ready for another strike. Elias remained focused, his eyes locked on Karzak's. There was no fear in them, only determination, calm, and an unwavering belief in his own skill. Karzak swung both fists in a flurry of attacks, each one aimed to crush Elias instantly. But the human moved with astonishing speed, ducking, rolling, and parrying with his arms and legs. Every strike from the warlord tested Elias's endurance, yet he remained unbroken. The crowd watched, unable to look away, captivated by the display of courage and skill. Then Karzak growled, a sound that shook the arena. He leapt high into the air, intending to land with devastating force. The ground seemed to quake as he came down. Elias stepped to the side, just barely avoiding the impact. The warlord crashed into the sand, creating a crater. The noise was deafening, but Elias barely reacted, keeping his focus on the battle. "Human," Karzak hissed, rising slowly. "You amuse me, but your luck will end here." Luck had nothing to do with it, Elias thought. This was skill, timing, and control over fear. He could see the slight weakness in Karzak's stance, the way the warlord relied on his size and rage more than technique. That weakness, though subtle, was enough. Elias moved closer, his steps silent but deliberate. He knew that brute strength alone would not win this fight. He had to use his intelligence and precision. As Karzak raised his arm for another crushing blow, Elias grabbed it mid-air, using the momentum to throw the warlord slightly off balance. The crowd gasped again. Karzak roared, swinging wildly, but Elias ducked and delivered a sharp strike to the warlord's side. It wasn't lethal, but it was enough to make him stagger. The warlord's armor protected him from serious injury, but the blow was a clear message. Humans could hit back. Humans could fight. The elite legions surrounding the arena began to murmur among themselves. They had always believed humans were fragile, easy to defeat. Yet here was a human, unarmed, standing against the greatest warrior in the galaxy, and holding his own. Doubt began to creep into their minds, a strange, unfamiliar feeling. Karzak's face darkened, and his anger turned into something sharper, more dangerous. He knew he couldn't underestimate this human, yet pride and rage still pushed him forward. He lunged again, faster and stronger than before. Elias shifted quickly, meeting Karzak's hands with his own. The two collided in a clash of force, strength meeting determination. Elias gritted his teeth. He could feel the raw power of the warlord trying to overpower him. Every muscle screamed with effort. Every nerve in his body was alert, reacting to the subtle shifts in Karzak's weight and balance. This was more than a fight, it was a test of endurance, strategy, and will. Then came the moment Elias had been waiting for. Karzak overextended in a powerful strike, leaving a slight opening. Elias's hands moved instinctively, shifting the warlord's balance, channeling all his energy into one precise motion. The sound of twisting metal rang through the arena as Elias applied pressure. The crowd held their collective breath, sensing that something incredible was about to happen. The sword, already broken in part, could not withstand the force. With a loud, echoing snap, it split further, leaving jagged edges in Elias's hands. Sparks flew as metal scraped against metal. Karzak froze, shock and disbelief etched across his face. He had never imagined that a human could do what he himself could not. Elias stepped back, holding the broken pieces firmly. His chest heaved with exertion, but his eyes were steady. He did not gloat or shout. He simply stood, calm and resolute, letting his actions speak louder than any words ever could. The crowd erupted in cheers, some standing, some screaming, all witnessing something extraordinary. A human had shattered the unbreakable. A human had faced the Warlord's full strength and survived. And in that moment, the impossible became real. Even the elite legion surrounding the arena was stunned. They had sworn loyalty to a leader they believed invincible. Now they looked at Elias with a mixture of fear, admiration, and doubt. If a human could do this, what else might they achieve? What other legends could they defy? Karzak, though enraged, slowly raised his head. His breathing was heavy, his pride wounded, but there was also a spark of respect in his eyes. Elias had shown not just strength, but courage, precision, and the unyielding will that marked humans as something extraordinary in the galaxy. "You, human," Karzak said, his voice low and tense. "You have proven something. Unexpected. But this is far from over." Elias nodded slightly. He knew the battle was not yet complete, but this moment was important. It was proof, not just to Karzak but to everyone watching, that humans were more than what they seemed. They were capable of facing the strongest, surviving the impossible, and rising above fear with intelligence, skill, and courage. The twin suns dipped even lower, casting long shadows across the arena. Elias held the broken sword pieces in his hands, a symbol of human resilience and the beginning of a shift that would ripple far beyond Krivos. The crowd was alive with excitement, awe, and newfound respect, and in the center of it all, Elias Vorn stood, not just as a fighter, but as a symbol of humanity's potential. The arena was alive with a strange energy. Dust swirled around the broken pieces of Karzak's legendary sword, and the twin suns of Krivos cast long shadows across the sand. Elias Vorn stood tall, calm, and collected, the shards of the blade clutched in his hands. He had done what no human, or any being, had ever done before. He had shattered the symbol of the Warlord's invincibility. The crowd was silent for a moment, stunned by the impossible. Whispers spread through the spectators like wildfire. "Did you see that?" one alien said to another. A mere human, has broken the unbreakable sword." The elite legion, trained for unquestioning obedience, watched in disbelief. These were warriors who had fought countless battles, defeated entire armies, and followed Karzak without question. And yet here was a human, unarmed, standing against their leader and surviving. Their eyes widened and some exchanged nervous glances. For the first time, doubt crept into their minds. Karzak's face was dark with fury. He had been humiliated, in front of the entire planet, and pride, alien pride, centuries in the making, burned like fire inside him. His massive frame tensed, every muscle ready to strike. "Human," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "You may have broken my sword, but do not think you have won. My strength is far from gone." Elias did not respond immediately. He studied Karzak carefully, his mind analyzing every movement, every subtle shift in posture. He could see the Warlord's strength, his raw power, but he also saw cracks in his technique, moments where arrogance overruled judgment. Humans could exploit that. Humans could see opportunity where others only saw force. Without warning, Karzak lunged forward, aiming to strike Elias with a massive blow. The human sidestepped with perfect timing, letting the Warlord's momentum carry him forward. Karzak crashed into the sand, sending a cloud of dust into the air. The crowd gasped. Elias remained calm, not attacking, only positioning himself strategically, showing that human strength was not just in muscle, but in mind and movement. The elite legion began to murmur among themselves. Some whispered, "If this human can survive, perhaps we have been wrong. Perhaps strength is not everything." Others remained skeptical, clinging to their loyalty. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Elias moved closer to Karzak, careful, deliberate, every step controlled. He did not want to strike unnecessarily. He wanted to show the Warlord and the Legion that humans were not defined by weapons alone. Humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless when their minds were sharp. Karzak recovered, his breathing heavy, his face twisted with rage. "You dare mock me, human," he shouted. He raised his fists again, swinging with tremendous power. Elias dodged each attack with skill and precision, moving like water around rocks. His body flowed naturally, anticipating the Warlord's strength and redirecting it rather than meeting it head-on. The Warlord swung again and again, each blow more furious than the last. Yet Elias remained steady, responding with subtle movements that wasted none of his energy. He was not trying to overpower Karzak. He was showing control, discipline, and the ability to endure. The spectators leaned forward, their eyes wide. Aliens who had never seen a human in combat were beginning to understand something important. Humans were not weak. Humans had something different, a combination of courage, intelligence, and instinct that could overcome even the greatest raw power. Karzak's swings grew wilder, less controlled as his frustration mounted. Elias used this to his advantage. He ducked, weaved, and stepped aside, letting the Warlord's own force exhaust him. Each movement Elias made was careful and intentional. He was demonstrating that true strength was not only physical, it was mental, emotional, and strategic. The elite legion began to shift in their stance. Some lowered their weapons slightly, unconsciously mirroring Elias's calmness. Others exchanged glances, realizing that the human was showing something they had never seen before: composure in the face of overwhelming power. Elias spoke quietly, his voice calm but clear. "Strength alone does not make a warrior," he said. "It is courage, skill, and wisdom that define a true fighter." The words traveled across the arena, carried by the strange stillness that had fallen. Even some of Karzak's closest advisors paused, listening. Karzak's eyes narrowed. He had faced countless enemies, defeated entire armies, and broken the will of countless warriors. Yet here was a human, unbowed, unafraid, and not seeking to fight recklessly but to survive with purpose. Rage and disbelief warred within the Warlord, leaving him momentarily unsure of how to act. Elias seized the opportunity. He stepped closer, moving with the grace of someone who understood every nuance of combat. He raised his hands, not as a threat, but as a demonstration of control. He would not strike unless necessary. He wanted Karzak and the Legion to see that humanity's strength was more than just muscle. It was discipline, intelligence, and unshakable will. The crowd whispered again, louder this time. "Look at him," one alien said. "He stands like a mountain, unafraid of the strongest being we know. A human yet fearless." Another added, "Perhaps we have judged them too harshly. Perhaps humans are more than they seem." Karzak's face darkened further. He had lost the initial shock, but now there was a new challenge: respect. He could not simply strike Elias down without acknowledging, at least in his own mind, that the human had done something extraordinary. That thought burned his pride, yet it was undeniable. Elias continued to move with careful precision, demonstrating skill without aggression. He sidestepped another wild strike from Karzak and used the Warlord's own momentum to guide him slightly off balance. It was not an attack, but a subtle display of control, showing that intelligence could redirect strength without needing to overpower it directly. The elite legion was now fully watching, some unable to hide their fascination. They had trained to follow Karzak without question, but here was a human who defied every expectation. Could it be that humans were capable of more than brute strength? That courage and cleverness could rival even the most disciplined warriors of Krivos? Elias took a deep breath, centering himself. The sun's heat pressed down, but he did not falter. His mind was clear, focused on the battle ahead, yet he understood the larger picture. This fight was not just about defeating Karzak. It was about proving that humanity could rise above fear, above prejudice, above every expectation that others had placed upon them. Karzak swung again, faster, stronger, but now with a hint of caution. The Warlord realized that brute force alone was not enough. Elias had taught him that humans were adaptable, intelligent, and unrelenting. The realization unsettled Karzak, making him hesitate ever so slightly in his movements. Elias saw the moment and he acted. He used Karzak's slight hesitation to demonstrate a maneuver he had perfected through years of training, redirecting the opponent's energy, creating balance while keeping control, and displaying strength without aggression. The Warlord stumbled slightly, and for the first time the elite legion saw vulnerability in their leader. The crowd erupted in whispers and shouts. "The human? He is showing us the impossible," one alien cried. "He is not afraid. He is in control." Elias smiled slightly, not out of arrogance, but from satisfaction. He had shifted the battle not by breaking weapons or muscles, but by demonstrating the power of human ingenuity and courage. The spectators were now witnessing a true human triumph, the ability to face the strongest and emerge unbroken, commanding respect through wisdom, skill, and bravery. Karzak's face was a mask of conflicted emotion. Rage, pride, and disbelief warred within him. He had underestimated humans, and that mistake now weighed heavily upon him. His strikes became cautious, deliberate, almost hesitant. Elias had done more than survive. He had changed the perception of what a human could be in the eyes of Krivos. The elite legion, sensing the shift, began to lower their weapons slightly. Some of them exchanged glances, understanding that the human before them was something remarkable. Courage, intelligence, and skill combined to make him a being worthy of respect. Even in a world that had always considered humans inferior, Elias spoke again, calm and commanding. "You may have trained for centuries, you may be strong, but strength alone does not make a leader. Respect, wisdom, and courage, these define true power." His words echoed through the arena, carried by the awe-filled crowd. For the first time, Karzak realized that Elias was not just a fighter. He was a symbol of human potential, a being who could challenge legends and inspire awe simply through his courage and skill. The arena fell into a strange silence. The spectators, the elite legion, even Karzak himself felt the shift. Humanity had proven itself, not through weapons or numbers, but through spirit, intellect, and determination. And in that moment, the impossible had become reality. The arena was silent, yet it vibrated with tension. The dust from the broken sword swirled in the air, catching the last rays of the twin suns. Elias Vorn stood in the center, calm and steady, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. Around him, the elite legion of Warlord Karzak watched, their weapons lowered, their eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and respect. Karzak himself stood behind them, his massive frame rigid with anger and pride. He had been humiliated. A human, small, unarmed, and seemingly ordinary, had not only survived his might but had also demonstrated superior skill and control. The warlord's jaw tightened, yet he did not strike. Pride, more than fear, held him back. Elias took a slow step forward, his eyes sweeping across the legion. "You've trained for years, you fought battles, and you've followed your leader without question," he said. His voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. But strength alone is not what makes a warrior great. True power comes from courage, wisdom, and the willingness to act even when fear is present. Some of the legion whispered among themselves. They had always been taught that humans were weak, fragile, and incapable of surviving against the strongest warriors of Krivos. Yet here was a human who had not only survived but had also challenged the warlord's skill and emerged unbroken. Doubt began to seep into their minds, followed by a strange feeling they had never experienced before. Admiration. Karzak's voice thundered across the arena. "Human, you dare speak to my legion? You are nothing but a creature of flesh and bone. You cannot command warriors who have known victory for centuries." Elias did not flinch. His gaze met Karzak's unwavering. "I do not seek to command through fear, Warlord," he replied. "I seek to show what humans can do when they are brave, focused, and determined. Your legion does not need to fear me. They can choose to see strength differently, to understand courage, and to respect skill no matter the form it takes." The elite legion paused, absorbing the words. Some had already started to question their loyalty, not out of betrayal but out of recognition. They had followed Karzak because he was strong, because fear had ruled their actions. But now they saw something they had never considered. Respect could inspire loyalty far more powerfully than fear. Karzak growled, anger boiling within him. He had lost control of the moment and it unnerved him, yet even he could not deny the truth before his eyes. Elias had faced his full strength, moved with precision, and proven that courage and intelligence could rival raw power. The warlord raised his massive arms, signaling his soldiers. "Do you see? This human is nothing. He is weak. You will crush him if you still have loyalty to me. But something had changed. The Legion hesitated. Their hands, once tightly gripping their weapons, now relaxed slightly. Their eyes flickered toward Elias, and in those eyes he saw a growing realization. Strength alone was not enough. Humans had something unique, something powerful that could not be measured by muscle or weaponry. Elias stepped forward again, his voice carrying across the arena like a calm tide. I do not seek to take your weapons or challenge your lives. I only ask that you see humans for what we can be. Resilient, clever, and capable of acts you may have thought impossible. Respect is earned through courage and action, not fear or dominance. A murmur rose from the Legion. Some of the younger warriors exchanged glances, hesitant but curious. They had trained under Karzak for years, yet never before had they seen such mastery combined with calm confidence. Elias represented something different, something inspiring. Karzak's face darkened further. Pride warred with reason in his mind. To acknowledge Elias was to admit a weakness, a momentary lapse in the supremacy of his strength. But the Warlord could not ignore what he had seen. The human had broken his sword, endured every strike, and demonstrated intelligence and courage that rivaled even the most skilled warriors of Krivos. Elias moved closer to the Legion, his posture open and non-threatening. I am not your enemy, he said. I am a human, standing before you as an example. You have the choice to continue following fear, or you can choose to follow courage. Strength can protect, but wisdom guides. Fear can control, but respect inspires. The Legion began to stir. Some lowered their heads, silently acknowledging the truth in Elias's words. Others looked at one another, unsure but curious. One by one, they began to take a knee. First, it was a few of the younger soldiers. Then more, until nearly the entire Legion knelt before Elias, not in submission to force, but in respect for the courage and skill they had witnessed. The crowd erupted, their cheers echoing across the plains. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as weak, but now every eye in the arena saw the truth. Courage, intelligence, and determination could rival the mightiest forces in the galaxy. Karzak's eyes blazed with fury and disbelief. His Legion had turned toward the human not because of fear, but because of admiration. His authority, built on dominance, was challenged in a way he had never imagined. And yet he could not deny the courage of Elias Vorn. Elias looked at the kneeling soldiers, then back at Karzak. I do not take this lightly, he said. I respect the loyalty and skill that brought you here, but I also ask that you remember what you have seen today. Humans are capable of more than you have believed. Courage, determination, and wisdom are as strong as any weapon, and when combined with respect and honor, they are unstoppable. The Legion remained kneeling, their heads bowed. Some silently whispered to one another, realizing that loyalty inspired by fear was temporary, but loyalty inspired by respect was enduring. Elias had not only survived against the Warlord, he had changed the hearts and minds of warriors who had known only obedience. Karzak's face twisted in anger, yet beneath it, there was a reluctant respect. Elias had done the impossible. He had demonstrated human strength, courage, and intelligence in a way that could not be denied. And in that moment, even the Warlord understood that humans could not be underestimated. Elias raised a hand to calm the cheering crowd. This is not about defeating one Warlord, he said. It is about showing what humans can achieve when they stand for courage, honor, and skill. We are not the weakest, and we are not to be dismissed. We are capable of the impossible. The crowd roared in response. Aliens and humans alike felt a sense of awe and inspiration. Humans, once underestimated and dismissed, now stood as a symbol of resilience and potential. The elite Legion had knelt, not in fear, but in respect. And the Warlord's authority, though still present, had been irrevocably challenged. Elias looked across the arena, taking in the sight of kneeling warriors, the cheering crowd and the setting suns. A quiet smile touched his lips. He had not sought power, conquest, or glory. He had sought only to demonstrate what humans could do, and in doing so he had changed the perception of his species forever. Some of the kneeling Legion whispered quietly among themselves. Perhaps we were wrong to doubt them, one said. They are not weak. They are clever, strong, and fearless. Another added, we have followed fear for too long. Perhaps courage deserves our loyalty instead. Karzak, towering behind the kneeling soldiers, finally spoke. His voice was low, almost begrudgingly respectful. Human, You have shown strength and skill I did not expect. The Legion kneels not because of your weapon, but because of your spirit. You have earned their respect." Elias nodded. He did not gloat. Respect was not claimed through arrogance, it was earned through action, courage, and integrity. He had proven humanity's strength without taking lives unnecessarily, without relying on weapons, and without acting out of malice. The sun set behind the distant mountains, casting long golden shadows over the arena. Elias knew that this victory was more than personal. It was a symbol for humanity, a proof that courage, intelligence, and determination could challenge even the most powerful forces in the galaxy. As the crowd dispersed, the elite legion remained kneeling, their faces thoughtful and inspired. Karzak returned to his fortress, his mind heavy with the realization that humans were no longer the species to dismiss. He had faced the impossible and survived, yet he could not ignore the lesson Elias had demonstrated. Elias walked through the arena slowly, the shattered sword pieces still in his hands. He could feel the respect, curiosity, and awe from the crowd. This was more than a victory, it was a turning point. Humanity had shown that it could rise above fear, challenge legends, and inspire loyalty through courage and skill rather than domination. He paused at the center of the arena, looking up at the night sky beginning to spread above Krivos. Stars twinkled in the distance, reminding him of the vastness of the galaxy and the countless challenges that lay ahead. But for the first time, Elias knew that humans were ready to face what others thought impossible, ready to rise, ready to inspire. The elite legion remained kneeling, a testament to the shift in perception, and the arena, once a place of fear and spectacle, had become a symbol of hope, courage, and human potential. Elias Vorn had not just survived, he had changed the hearts of warriors, the minds of spectators, and the fate of humanity in this corner of the galaxy. And as the night settled over Krivos, one truth shone brighter than any star: humans were not weak. Humans could rise, inspire, and triumph, and with courage, skill, and determination, they could achieve the impossible.